7 minutes.
Minister, you announced new tax penalties on small businesses that have passive income of over $50,000 a year last fall. And when you made that announcement, you reassured those businesses that that their existing savings and investment income from those savings would be grandfathered and therefore not affected by the new rules. Let me quote, "I want to reassure everyone that our proposed changes would only apply on a go-forward basis, not to existing savings, nor to the investment income from those savings." Yes or no question. Did you keep your promise to grandfather the pre-existing savings and income from those savings of small business in your tax changes?
So, Mr. Chair, I have the same amount.
Likely to go to yes or no questions in this form, Mr. Poilievre. The minister has the floor for an equal amount of time. Go ahead, Minister.
What we moved forward with was a measure that recognizes the important savings that small business owners might have in their corporations, and found a way to assure that for those small business owners that they would be at the small business tax rate up to the time at which they hit $1 million approximately in savings, and then they would move.
Does that grandfather existing savings?
Mr. Poilievre, let the minister answer. You get 7 minutes, and there's 2 other rounds. So.
And that moves to the large business tax rate, still a tax advantage rate, progressively up to about $3 million in savings, enabling for small business owners to not only have money to invest in their business, but to the extent that for some of them they were using it for retirement vehicle, protects them for that.
Mr. Chair,
in that regard.
Forgive me, but the minister is using my time. He already had a chance to give a speech. He promised that his proposed changes would only apply on a, quote, go-forward basis, not to existing savings, nor to investment income from those savings. Simple question. Did the minister keep that promise? Yes or no?
So, as I mentioned, the measures that were introduced are, of course, on a go-forward basis, and
do they apply to the investment income from pre-existing savings?
We've got lots of time. We can go through this without interruptions. The minister has the floor. You'll both get equal time. I'm watching the time, Mr. Minister.
And what we will do, and as we enact this, is make sure that those savings are protected. And as people move past that $1 million of savings in their private vehicle, up to the $3 million, they will be gradually moved into the larger business tax rate, a continuing preferential tax rate.
Okay, so you have a factual error in your answer used multiple times. The number that's in the legislation you introduced is not $1 million, it's $50,000. So just I'd urge you to read your own legislation. Secondly, you said that income from pre-existing savings would be grandfathered, that it would not count towards this new tax penalty. I'm simply asking you whether or not you kept that promise. Yes or no? Is it grandfathered?
The proxy of using the amount of investment, of course, is to use a shorthand that would require a little bit of math. So in using the math, you're correct that the $50,000 intended to show a 5% rate of return on $1 million, and $150,000 would be intended to show the rate of return on $3 million.
Right.
So really what we're trying to do is make sure that that preferential small business tax rate is available for businesses to reinvest in their business. Should they require leaving money in their business up to $1 million, that money can be left in at the small business preferential tax rate.
Again, sure.
And above that amount, up to roughly the $3 million amount, there will be a movement from the small business tax rate to the large business tax rate. An approach that we think allows people to continue investing at a very, very low tax rate. Of course, the small business tax rate is the lowest among G7 countries, and continue to invest as a larger business at
Minister,
preferential tax rate.
Simple question. Is existing savings and the income from those savings excluded from the changes that you brought in to the small business tax rate? Yes or no?
Again, what I think is important to remind ourselves is we have in Canada a highly preferential small business tax rate. We've done this for a good reason, so that small businesses can reinvest in their business, and we've enabled for people to continue to park money in those companies in case they need to make those investments in future, or in the case of people that might need to take time off, whether for maternity leave or other reasons.
I asked a very short question, Mr. Chair. If I could go back to, I'll ask it differently, because the Minister's department posted these words on its website. They remain there. All past investments.
I'm going to let the minister finish his answer. He is a little over time, but I don't think we need to interrupt when we get lots of time. And then you can go to your other question. If you're over your 7 minutes, we'll allow it. Go ahead, Minister.
Again, Mr. Chair, just really for all of us, reminding ourselves that we have a tax system that provides very favorable situation for small business owners in this country, with the lowest small business rates among G7 countries, significantly lower than other countries. And we do allow for businesses not to have to immediately reinvest all of their profits, but to leave some profits in the business for potential future investments or other reasons. That's why the approach that we've taken gives people
Mr. Chair.
$1 million.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Minister, point of order.
I asked a very short question. I think it was less than 10 seconds. You've now given him a minute of my time.
Go ahead.
I asked that time be given back to me. I'm going to read a quote here. All past investments and the income earned from those investments will be protected. That's what the Finance Department website says right now. People have to make decisions and have to file their taxes based on these rules. That's what your website says. I quoted earlier what you said to the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada, who actually have to prepare the taxes. They would expect you to actually know what your own policy is. This is actually a yes or no question. Either savings that were accumulated before the changes came into effect are grandfathered and therefore have no impact on the business's access to the small business tax deduction, or not. It is a yes or no. So you promised that savings that were previously existing before your changes came into effect would be grandfathered. Were they? Yes or no?
Mr. Minister, and we're well over time. I said I'd give you ample time, and I'll give the Minister ample time to answer the question how he sees fit, Mr. Minister. And then we'll move to you, Mr. Julian.
Again, pleased to describe the approach we've taken. Really, we see the importance for businesses to have the ability to maintain income in their
It's a yes or no question.
Poilievre, it'll be
a yes or no question.
The question will be.
You said he would have to answer the question.
And
you said, Chair, that he would answer the question.
And he is.
That was your commitment. He hasn't answered the question.
Out of order, Mr. Poilievre. Mr. Minister, you have the floor.
He has not answered the question.
Shut off his mic.
It's a yes or a no.
Shut off his mic.
It's a yes or no.
Mr. Minister, you have the floor.
I think I've made my point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you both. Mr. Julian, 7 minutes.